Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Cadillac Planning Commission meeting here for April 28th, 2014. I would like to start out with a call of order. Yes. Now, next I'm going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would join me, and please turn off your cell phones if you haven't already. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Start with roll call, please, Mr. Adams.
Yes. Filkins. Champlin. Van Linting.
Here.
Smith. Peterson.
Here.
Schichtel.
Here.
Gregg. Finn.
Yes.
Putler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Start out first, entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda for this evening, again, April 28th, 2014. So moved. Mr. Peterson. I'll second. Mr. Van Lente. Roll, please.
Yes. Motion by Peterson, support by Van Lente to approve tonight's agenda, the agenda for 4/28/14. Schichtel.
Yes.
Van Linting.
Yes.
Finn.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Putler.
Yes, sir. There being no public, I doubt we have any public comments. So next on our agenda is approval of the minutes from March 24th, 2014. I didn't see anything on it. Make a motion. For a second. Mr. Schichtel.
Okay, motion by Finn, supported by Schichtel to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes of March 24th, 2014. Finn?
Yes.
Schichtel?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Van Linting?
Yes.
Putler.
Yes.
Okay.
We have no public hearings this evening. We do have some new business. First point of new business is 5A in your packet. For the Rotary Performing Arts Pavilion, their master plan, again, support document 5A. Mr. Adams will bring us up to speed.
Here, I'm going to walk over here. You have in your packet an 8.5 by 11 rendering, which is the most current rendering, and I'm not sure that's going to show up, Jed, but there's a little bit. This is an older one. There's going to be a few differences, but I'll point those out. But essentially, it's pretty much the same. But I think we're all familiar with the Rotary Performing Arts Pavilion, the pavilion site, which more or less runs from Harris on the north, Harris Street, down to essentially where the parking lot is located. Here are the restrooms. Sitting in the pavilion area, and across the street is the city park. And we're basically looking at the pavilion area. About a year and a half or so ago, a committee was put together, Citizens Committee was put together to look at what sort of upgrades, enhancements needed to be made at the pavilion itself, the structure, as well as the site. And that project was helped along by a grant from the Cadillac Area Rotary Club. They gave us some seed money to retain a consultant. We hired DK Design Group, a local group of architects. They worked with the committee. And the committee has come up with essentially a plan of some future enhancements that hopefully will be made at the park. First and foremost, we're not going to be removing the pavilion. We get that question once in a while. There's no intent to remove the pavilion. But let me just go through and highlight the improvements that are being proposed. And really, no particular order, but in your memo, I'm going to use that order that I listed them. If you're aware of the pavilion seating, the seating itself actually was put into place before the pavilion was constructed. The seating that's there now, essentially, it all faces the lake and it's kind of long, linear. It was basically put into place so you could view the lake. And then the pavilion came into being, And so a lot of the existing seating is not, particularly if you're on the outskirts, it's not real conducive, real good for viewing performances. So the project calls for the removal of that seating, and this just shows one, but on your drawing there's 2 tiers of seating in this area right here. It will be basically cement with a back, but it'll be there'll be two tiers of these seats, along with there'll be green area retained, just like there is now for if you want to bring your lawn chairs and so forth. So two-tier seating, all of which folks sitting there will have a good view of the structure. The addition of along the walls, you might say, the sides of the pavilion, there's these 2 small extensions, and those would be changing rooms. One of the issues here, particularly if there are different events going on or acts where people need to change, there's no place to do so, really. So the addition of those small wings, modifying the floor area of the pavilion to 1 level. You're aware of it, it's at different levels right now, and so you have to be somewhat careful if you're performing. That would be changed to a single level. This bathroom on the south will be replaced. Right now, there's a men's and a women's lavatory area, essentially 1 stall each. They'll be expanded. Essentially, in the women's there'll be 3 stalls, and the men's there'll be 2 stalls plus a urinal. So, and the goal is to actually do that project this fall. The Cadillac Area Rotary Club has given us the funds to do so. So we hope to move forward with that. There'll be various modifications of the pedestrian walks. One of the issues right now with the current walkway is, let's say you're just fishing down here, for example, and your car is down here. Theoretically, you can go out here and come down. What happens during a performance? People walk right through in front of the performance. The walkways will be somewhat rearranged, and at certain walks, there's going to you'll actually be able to put up some barriers, kind of like portable barriers, so to speak, to prevent people from walking through, just to help mitigate or get away from those interruptions. Creation of a unloading area. You can bring a car or a van up in here. You'll be able to unload equipment. Right now, there's no place to do so, and so that's being proposed. This may or may not occur. It would be a down-the-road phase, but the possibility of a small boardwalk on the west side of the pavilion. A couple of reasons for that. One is the possibility of just having an overlook associated with the pavilion. That same boardwalk could be used to allow for an entry into the pavilion area that would be barrier-free. Because this would be ramped, and so it would be possible then to actually have a barrier-free entrance via the back. It doesn't mean we can't or aren't going to do some barrier-free adjustments up here, but for actors and so forth. If you were physically challenged, you'd still have an opportunity to be able to participate. Some have said, well, gosh, what if there's a performance going on? Well, people will be walking here. Again, we would be able to close these off, so you couldn't walk that during the performance. Relocate. There are some flags in through here. Those flags would be relocated. And there's also a POW MIA, Missing in Action Monument. I don't know if you're aware of it or not. That would be relocated as well. In fact, we're thinking about the possibility this year in concert with the restroom project, we can do the flag relocation project as well as the POW MIA monument relocation, maybe having an overall dedication and so forth, kind of kicking this project off in general. And so that's a possibility. Crosswalk improvements leading over to the city park. Some sound system improvements to improve the sound there, and then some landscaping enhancements. Those are the basic modifications. You're looking at phasing this over a period of years. may not seem like a lot, but you're talking anywhere from $300, $400, $500,000 to do this totally. And so we're going to, again, we're looking to the Cadillac Area Rotary Club has been kind enough to support this. We're also going to be looking at some grants with Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So I'm here tonight with respect to this for two things. In your memo, you notice that I indicated at the top, Section 61 of the Michigan Enabling Planning Act, which creates this body, provides that public improvements, particularly improvements like this, not just basic maintenance, but major public improvements associated with city parks, they're to come before the Planning Commission for essentially for approval, review and approval. And I know you may have heard about this project in the past, but you really haven't formally, let's say, looked at it, asked questions, reviewed it. And in terms of this particular design, as we proceed, obviously there may be some changes here and there as things occur. But basically, it's just it's to upgrade it. The pavilion is 20+ years old now, and it gets a lot of use. I know this summer, for example, I think just about every weekend the pavilion is tied up. Probably 8 to 12 of those are weddings. More and more people are having weddings at the pavilion. Then there's concerts, both on the weekends as well as during the week, different concerts that are going on. When the construction happens, that does impact the pavilion itself. It won't matter so much with the restroom, for example. But the season, and I don't know exactly when this will occur, whether it'll be 2015, 2016, in the future, the city is looking at, okay, we're going to need to make some arrangements for relocating certain activities, and in some cases certain activities may not be able to happen here if the construction is ongoing. But we're trying to get enough leeway here to make sure we take care of that. This summer, we don't envision that there's going to be any activity per se that's going to impact the activities that are already planned for the pavilion. Any questions?
The restroom, is it going to be tore down and started over?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, restroom. In fact, in your packet, I believe I included a little floor plan.
Yeah.
Probably it's going to be the floor plan that's nearest the legend and so forth, down at the bottom, the DK legend and so forth. Yes, but there'll be. The programming is to tear the existing one down. They looked at the potential for remodeling the existing facility. It's not really conducive to it. It was going to cost more to actually remodel the facility than to remove it. It'll be a somewhat similar construction, but the facility, the restrooms really are in need of expansion, particularly when there's a major activity going on. You either have to stand in line a long time, or you could go somewhere else. And they've also brought porta potties periodically down into the park site just to accommodate, not that this will take care of everything, but they are sorely in need of an improvement. And you're going to see in a second how the restrooms are going to dovetail to the next project that I'm going to talk about briefly. But that's the project. Like I say, the goal is to, we haven't decided to determine the phases yet other than this first phase, which would, again, be primarily the restrooms. That one's easy to do. Doesn't necessarily negatively impact anything that's going on per se. If we do it in the fall, it'll have the least amount of impact. So.
Is there a particular reason why the option entry, you're leaning towards that one?
But that particular, we asked a series of people, lots of people, and 9 times out of 10 it was that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Some of the women know, guys know, it just seems like the other floor.
Almost everybody we talked to, they liked that particular one, so we're fine with that. And it's kind of that arrangement now.
Yeah.
And people seem to like the men's on one side, women on the other, so that there's no potential for conflict.
Okay.
proposed, we've got two proposed spectator gates in a location. How do you envision them operating and when?
Now that I don't know. I'm not sure. They haven't been designed yet, and the logistics of how and when have not been worked out. So the thought is that there needs to be some spectator gates to periodically, when certain activities or events going on, not to prevent people from navigating one place to the other. They'll be able to, for example, the thought is they'll still be able to maneuver along the railroad area. It's just that don't want them going through this area. That doesn't mean it still won't happen, but it will cut it down somewhere.
See, but if they did do that extension on the west side, technically they could walk back there and it's behind.
Yeah, so it's some of those things are still being worked out. But that was an issue by some of the entertainers, is the fact that it seems like there's a lot of, at times there's a fair amount of movement through the front of this when people are playing, singing, whatever, by individuals who are not at all associated with the event.
Seating levels, two different levels, the same level or will
Two different levels.
Two different levels.
Yep, so that everybody will get a good view.
Okay.
And the access to those will be ramped so that, again, you can bring a wheelchair or whatever down. Again, this hasn't been designed yet. There hasn't been no, this is just a concept at this point.
Are you going to remove the seam that's already there? That's on the bottom
Yes,
side?
yeah. The goal is to remove it.
Trees and
Landscaping. And again, we're going to maintain as much lawn area as possible for lawn chair seating. People like that. They have to bring their lawn chairs. We don't want to eliminate that. So.
Jerry, you mentioned the proposed to make the performing arts pavilion one level. I'm assuming you're going to go up.
The thought is probably to go up, yeah. Again, it hasn't been designed, so but the committee wanted it one level.
I think it could be a potential flooding hazard if it lowered.
And that's part of the thought. That was discussed.
Well, most performing platforms or stages are
higher.
Are slightly higher.
From the standpoint of being right.
Yeah.
And that created some issues with respect to ramping up to it, and which will still be done.
You could still do that though, and incorporate a ramp on the other side for ADA. That's not an issue at all. But
one of the things that we're also looking at, it's not depicted here, but the possibility of actually cutting again, yours shows the two-tiered seating, actually cutting a walkway through there. And the reason being, why would that be the case? Let's see how smart you guys are. You have daughters? Weddings? Weddings is people like to walk down the center aisle for weddings, so that's actually being considered as opposed to coming down the side aisle.
Well, that might lend itself easier to navigate the seating as well too. So you're not having to enter the seating from north or south and then going past everybody that's already seated there.
That came up as well. It gives another opportunity for people to move in and out of the seating without, let's say, somebody climbing all over. Right. But it primarily was precipitated originally by the fact, well, now these weddings, when people like to have center aisle. A lot of weddings.
I have performed there several times in the past, and it's not a pleasant place to perform. It's a beautiful venue, but from a performance standpoint, it's difficult. Well, acoustically and sound-wise, and like you say, people walking in front of you all the time, and it's just a really bad setup. You got to haul all your gear from the road.
Our picture also shows some proposed shading devices.
Yeah, which probably aren't going to happen. Again, it's still a concept drawing. Originally, they were looking at the possibility of having, I think they're called sails. I don't know if you've ever been to an outdoor pavilion, somewhat like in Muskegon, for example.
Yeah.
They have these large, fairly extensive and fairly strong.
Grand Traverse Resort has one.
Yes, these sails that, not just for rain necessarily, but for the sun and so forth. Probably they cost a fortune, and it's maintenance and so forth. So they're shown on here because the committee discussed it, but it would be a long-term if they actually happen. If one of you wanted to be the benefactor of the sales and donate, I'm sure they would. The John Putman doing your sales. We do it. So just basic modifications primarily, but just to make the facility a little more usable, a little more user-friendly, and to try to take care of some of the needs that have been demonstrated and shown over the years. So.
I like the walkway along the railroad because right now there's not. It's a little, especially even with Earth Day this weekend, it was hard to navigate around there, spread out and see, along the railroad there. Had things set up in a walkway would have been a lot nicer there.
So we need a what, motion?
Just a resolution of support, basically, that, you would support the project.
Have they, I know in a past meeting, when we were looking for concepts or ideas or something like that for this little area here, I had thrown out a suggestion of closing that street down. Has anybody else
Lake Street?
suggested that?
Oh, yes.
And made that all into one?
Not part of this project, but that's still being looked at. There's the possibility of actually, in fact, you'll be seeing them in June, I think, those place plans projects again. Some communities have actually installed, and again, I don't know if it would work well here because of the weather, but for want of a better way to say it, bollards that actually come up out of the, can come up out of the system. They're actually
out of the road itself?
out of the road itself. They're covered like with a cap during,
It's like a police barricade?
Yes, to actually block these off during an event, as opposed to just having it, blocked off with, with what we put out there now. So, in terms of actually fully enclosing or having permanent closure of the road, it's still being discussed. Again, I think you're probably looking at it depends on what happens elsewhere in the downtown area. Our problem, as you know, is this is basically the only significant north-south system through the downtown other than Mitchell. And you might say, well, they could go, to the east, but then you're going through residential areas. This is the most, but there are some ideas, some options being looked at. So I won't say it'll never happen, but I think it'll be a while. It's not part of this.
If you're looking for, I would entertain a motion to approve the go-ahead plans if that's what we need to do.
That's what we need.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that. I'm all for it. I don't know how you want it stated, but...
That's fine. That's all I need. Motion to support the project.
Mr. Van Lincoln and Mr. Peterson, if I can move it on roll call.
Okay. Motion to support the Rotary Pavilion in the City Park, the master plan as presented. Schichtel?
Yes.
Bent?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Van Lincoln?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. This leads you into 5B, the White Pine Bike Trail.
This is just for your information right now, not looking for any sort of approval. Okay. Well, let's see, gentlemen. This is Rotary Performing Arts Pavilion again, City Park. Okay, and the library. In the White Pine Trail, it's a non-motorized bike trail, at least non-motorized during the summer. Goes all the way from Grand Rapids Comstock Park all the way up to essentially the city of Cadillac. Now the trail from the DNR standpoint ends about a mile or so south of the, just outside the city, about a mile or so. You come into the city, Sunnyside Drive, and then the city itself kind of parallels Holly Road or Granite and Sunnyside. There's a paved portion that ends right here at South Street. Okay, Harbor View Apartments. Okay, that trail comes right here. It basically ends. Okay, this is Lake Street right here. What we're looking at doing is taking and extending the trail into the downtown area. Essentially, this is what people refer to as the farm market parking lot. Along here, this portion, that property is a corridor. It's an abandoned railroad right-of-way. It's owned by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. We have nothing in writing yet, but we've had a number of meetings with the DNR. They're very supportive of this, just like we have here, of essentially modifying the lease or the easement that we have, I think it's a lease, with them to extend it to accompany this area right here, allowing us to essentially extend the trail right into the downtown, creating a trailhead trail end. So the park, or the bike trail, would run all the way from Grand Rapids to the city of Cadillac. We would be the trail end, the trail head. It just so happens, it's been some months ago, but we received a technical assistance grant from the National Park Service. And so we have an individual that's working with us right now from the National Park Service in essentially facilitating a preliminary design concept. Since that time, the Michigan chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects has taken us on as a project, so they're actually doing the design for us. And we've been advised, on television, we've been advised that this particular project stands a good chance for a grant. Okay, it's trail-oriented, which is people love, and so there's some real possibilities. The thought is we would continue on the abandoned railroad right away. We don't want to cross the railroad, the active railroad. But this is all city-owned property right here. It's the library, and we need to work with the library, but basically snake the trail between the railroad property, and there's more room there than you think, by the way, and the library. It doesn't show it here, but the possibility of actually creating a pathway into the library itself, so that folks, let's say, were riding their bike and wanted to go to the library, they could cut right through. Coming to Chapin Street and crossing Chapin, and then building essentially a small trailhead, trail-in feature, a place to put, we may not exactly have it right here, that's still being worked out, but a place where you can put your bikes. There might be a kiosk with a sign indicating what's going on or what's happening downtown, and so on and so forth. I mentioned the restrooms, which are right here, and we need restroom facilities in concert with these. Not that we wouldn't necessarily have a drinking fountain here. And again, that's why this may move a little bit, but the proposed restroom improvement would go hand in hand with what's happening here. We really don't want to build a big feature here because it would take away from views. Essentially, we don't need a big feature, but a place to set, lock your bikes up, bike up, and so forth, and also as well as a place to park vehicles. So it's a feature that we're still in the design stages, but it's something you're going to see in the future again. Any questions? Again, I'm not looking for anything. I just want to make you aware of what's going on.
It's awesome.
Now, would they, again, I'm looking way down the road, of course, would they allow
snowmobile traffic then?
No, not at this point. That's still being looked at, how we bring snowmobiles into the downtown, and there's pro and con to that. One of not, which is the least, like take Cadillac West. They depend heavily on snowmobile traffic, and
Right.
how would it impact Cadillac West? Probably just as importantly is, how do we bring them into the downtown through homes? Because you can't end up controlling, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And also, the issue is, another issue is, do we take them all the way through? Do they have to end up somewhere? Where do they end up? By whose restaurant do they end up? And by whose, adult beverage location do they end up? And snowmobiles typically aren't going to walk real far. They don't want to be that distance from their machines, expensive machines, plus they're lugging a lot of gear and so forth. So there's a lot of logistics to this, but we're exploring what some other communities like Alpena has allowed some snowmobile movement into the downtown. And, so we're investigating how, because we do have individuals who have asked, feel it would be good for the community. Downtown was never designed to accommodate snowmobiles.
Is there a snowmobile riding allowed currently in the city?
Not really.
You can ride down the lake.
Well, you say
You're right,
not-
on the lake.
You say not really, but there's snowmobiles that rip up and down River Street all the time.
Yeah, they're not supposed to.
That's what I thought.
Right, that's a no.
Yeah.
Occasionally,
About
about
a
a
mile.
Yeah, I think that you can go on your own property, for example, let's say you're on the lake. You can go from your property onto the lake and off the lake. And 2 years ago, we actually, the folks, the Snowmobile Festival, they asked if they could use this parking lot right here for snowmobiles. And we said yes. The problem is there wasn't any snow. You may recall, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They didn't ask for it last year. It didn't get very much use even when there was snow. But basically in the city, if you're not on your own property, then you can't ride snowmobiles. I think the ordinance does allow for you to, let's say, you got a trailer in front of your property on the city street, you can take the snowmobile off and on to get onto your property.
Yeah, but not ride down the
But
city
not right
street.
down the, yeah, I see people ride, like along Holly Road and other locations too. That's close to. This is just for informational purposes.
Would that be paid then if that moved forward?
Yes, that would be paid. Be paid probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 feet in width, maybe a little wider, not too much wider. We don't want a street. And would be restricted to non-motorized vehicles only. And it would give the city, from a tourism standpoint, bicycling, we did some surveys, it's been a few months ago, but maybe I mentioned this to you folks, but we talked to the Visitors Bureau and to the Chamber, and talked to the folks that are front line, that interact with visitors on a regular basis, and the number one inquiry from both establishments by tourists was, where are your bike trails? Overwhelming number one question, where are your bike trails? Because we want to ride them. And so biking is, I think, will continue to be popular, and from the standpoint of DNR literature and so forth, you go from Grand Rapids to Cadillac, Michigan.
Biking is a big item down in south and along the Gulf Coast with seniors are back in the brush and up and down the roads. And Indianapolis is another good example where there's a lot of bike traffic that's from the suburbs. You can take some of these routes right on downtown to various areas from many directions.
But, it's like our downtown. Again, the downtown was never geared towards accommodating bikes.
And so now it's all like retrofitting. How do you do it?
In most of the cases that I saw around Indianapolis, they were on abandoned railroads.
Okay. So it's a lot of folks really like this idea. And again, there's a committee. There's always committees. There's a committee that's working on this, getting close to finishing it up. Right now the Progressive Architects Engineers out of Grand Rapids, they're the company with the American Society of Landscape Architects, the Michigan chapter. It's the firm that's actually doing the lead on the design concept for us. So we haven't had to, indirectly you pay for it through taxes, but both of the National Park Service and the Society of Architects, Landscape Architects, we've gotten grants to do this. Any questions? This will come back to you eventually.
I've got, I recall a couple of years ago, there was a gentleman here talking about an extensive snowmobile trail through this area, and I can't remember the details on it. I was wondering if that's
Still a possibility, yeah, still a possibility, Joe.
where would that go?
He was looking, though, primarily on the west side of the city, kind of sneaking it through the west side into the industrial parks, and then on up. And that's still on the drawing board. Hasn't moved anywhere, but still on the drawing board.
That Bill Locust?
Yes.
I think if we could reasonably make the area snowmobile friendly, I'm not a snowmobiler, but I think it would be a great thing for tourism.
I do too. I agree. It's tough, largely because of homeowners, and I'm a homeowner. I don't watch snowmobiles 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not saying they would, but they will. Buzzing by my house. You want to sleep and so forth. So on the other hand, I respect the fact that they are important. And I don't ride that often, but I like riding. But it's not dead.
Anybody have anything else on this, Mr. Adams?
Thank you.
What's the, is there a target date? Or is
probably
still too early in the concept?
Still too early. I would say in terms of if this were to be constructed, we're probably looking at the soonest would be the fall of 2015, because we have to finalize the design, get certain approvals, and then we would go for grant monies. So it's going to be a while. It'll be a while, but something to work towards.
That's really not that far out.
No, not really.
We're good with that? Okay. We have no old business.
Just one item there. It's not really, I don't want to put it on the agenda, but you may recall that Commissioner Schichtel asked about a month or so ago about some signage spelling. You were contacted, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted you to know that we followed up, so.
Yeah, I presume they'll do what they can do.
Right.
It's not a big deal, but...
But I told you we'd follow up, and I wanted to make sure they knew we
Yes,
followed
they
up.
did. They called me, in a timely fashion. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda. Old business, nothing this evening. Table items, nothing also this evening. Any other board member quote comments this evening? Good. Good. Okay. There being still no public, no comments, if everyone is okay, then we will go.
Thank you.